panelists, speakers, professors in the house, we have someone very special in our midst, and permit me to claim her since I'm a Nigerian. We have Dr. Ramatu Tijjani Aliyu. She's the Minister for State for the Federal Capital of Nigeria. Dr. Ramatu Tijjani Aliyu is a Nigerian politician and the current Minister of State for the Federal Capital Territory. She began her political career as the focal person for women affairs, youth and social development at Gwagwalada Area Council FCT from 2004 to 2007. She then served as the lead liaison between the Federal Capital Territory and the implementation of Millennium Development Goals Project from 2005 to 2007. She is the president of the Council of African Political Parties and was previously the president of the Council of African Political Parties Women Wing from 2015 to 2017. She is the founder of the RTA Foundation, an organization focused on empowerment and social reconstruction in rural areas. Through this foundation, she has placed emphasis on poverty alleviation programs that aim to reduce poverty, empower youth, and restore the pride of women as the custodians of a stable family unit. Ramatu attended Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, where she obtained a bachelor's degree in urban and regional planning. She has a master's degree in public administration and a doctoral degree in peace and security studies from the Nasarawa State University, Kefi. She is in our midst standing right now. With a warm welcome, help me to bring to the stage Dr. Ramatu Tijjani Aliyu.
Thank you. Thank you. Can you go fix that? Okay. Thank you very much for having me today. Okay. I saw someone with a mobile microphone here. Can I have that? Good. Thank you all very much for having me. And lastly, a point of correction, the PhD is in security and strategic studies. I once again want to appreciate all of us in this hall, particularly the youth, for this initiative. And I would like to say, please, I would like to hear a resounding round of applause for yourselves. Thank you very much. I am indeed very privileged to bring the closing keynote address to the London School of Economics Africa Summit 2023. It is indeed a great honor to appear before this noble institution, which is among the leading intellectual hubs of the world. I would like to thank the LSE, especially Firoz Lalji Institute for Africa, for putting together this great summit that rivets attention on Africa. I sincerely applaud you all for offering us, especially the youths, a great platform of self-examination, cross-fertilization of ideas, and birthing a dream for a renascent Africa. The words of the Chinese philosopher, Liu Zhu, is very important here. Give me the fish I eat for a day, and you teach me to fish, and I'll eat for a lifetime. Definitely, we are being taught to fish, to eat for a lifetime. I congratulate the Institute as it marks the 10th edition of the annual summit. The theme, the now and next generation, is achieved to benefit of sustainable development goal, and it must give due attention to strategies meeting the necessities of current generation in a manner that does not compromise the needs of the future ones. The focus on students and the youth in this year's summit is particularly encouraging. It imbues one with a faith in the future. Ordinarily, an average African man or child would tell you it looks bleak. But with summits like this, with organizations like this, giving platform to youth for the conversation to begin, bridge building to begin, synergy to build up, I think there is greater hope for the future. Well, we have brainstormed on a number of sub-themes, such as conflict and peace building, youths as agents of change, proliferation of violence against youths, and the global digital revolution. Africa's place now and the future, among others. The topic on the future of Africa was particularly well received. And I must appreciate our great ladies and gentlemen on the last panel. Gideon Onyago, Nancy, Ibrahim Sanusi, Nisan, Dagbo. You have done all very well. It's commendable. The presentations and conversations have been engaging, and decisions most insightful as well as challenging. They have offered us the opportunity, unique opportunity to reflect, to review what we've been into, to focus our attention on major challenges that affects African development. Once again, we are being summoned to take our own destinies in our own hands. Are we together? The youths would say it's time for inclusion. How ready are we to be included? Many African leaders, we have to come to terms also. At what age were they saddled with responsibilities of leadership? But if you check within the African continent today, what are the age brackets of the presidents you see? That means the time is now than tomorrow. But how? As much as we hold them to account, the young ones being given the opportunity or that are privileged to have the opportunity must come clear with their content, must be graceful in action, must be accountable in duty, particularly when it has to do with the usage of the power and the finances. This responsibility surely is yours and mine. Once again, we are being summoned, and we must take it seriously. It's one thing to converge to speak about giving powers to the younger ones, engendering the society by women inclusion and youth. After then, what happens? If in the process we pay lip service to, God for that, the real thing, the content, the capacity, square peg in square holes being used, then we shall have mediocrity take center stage. Until when and only when, if and only if, we give capacity priority, we give competence and opportunity over and above godfatherism, mediocrity, over and above who knows who, like it's been done and the practice across Africa, then shall goals be achieved. But it is doable. It is achievable. What do we do with the power of the social media? There is freedom of speech indeed, and all of us, we say that. But should I witnessed this beautiful scene here, and the young gentlemen and ladies lined up. Brilliant ideas, brilliant discussion, brilliant submissions. Should it transcend beyond this hall to action? How? Do we leave them just on our papers, or it forms our basic lifestyles? That is a $1 million question. Well, I am particularly mindful of the Agenda 2063. of the AU. Indeed, the issue it has thrown up are issues that are germane to Africans' development. Also, I believe that the vision is achievable. An integrated, prosperous, and peaceful Africa driven by its own citizens and representing a dynamic force in the international arena cannot be achieved, cannot be realized without the engagement of the brilliant youth of Africa, without their participation. The world is changing. The world is a global village. I must appreciate Nancy. She was clear with it. The data is collected at that level. The people to be engaged in those exercises will be youths. But as they go around, the sincerity of purpose, the commitment to duty, you must come clear with that. Do you sit down in a corner to concoct what you write as data to be submitted? It goes a long way to affect the results we expect to see. But I also see that the path to delivery of the Agenda 2060 is strewn with constraints. I therefore, inasmuch as I appreciate that the AU is doing much and a lot is being done, charge participants to direct their minds to how we can achieve these milestones. It's achievable. In the European Union, for instance, you could see that member states subscribe to a common ideology of free market capitalism. But come back to Africa. You still hear a cacophony of voices, of ideas, of beliefs. Who does what and does not do? How can we make the necessary progress when we cannot speak in one voice? We are still tied to the aprons of our colonial masters. This happens because most of us are still reliant upon them, either for arms and ammunition, or for settlement of internal crisis disputes, or even external crisis disputes. What then do? We are yearning for generational change. How feasible it is? It is really practicable. But that is dependent on you and I, the actions we take, what we do and don't do. And that is why we still stand here to commend the organizers of this event. We need laudable programs like this to hold leaders to account. Perhaps listening to this on your platforms and pages will propel them to do more. We spur them to bring out the real actions in them. We had leaders in Africa. The speaker was right, from Nigeria. Very great leaders then that controlled, did well, came clear, with their passion for the unity of Africa under the OAU. Again came the AU. Now let's go back to the activities outlined by the AU. Is it achievable? It must be passion-driven. There must be sincerity of purpose. There must be commitment to duty. There must be reality integrated in it. Then there must be synergy from all African countries. Then we must be ready to proffer homegrown solutions for homegrown problems. We cannot take applicable solutions from developed climes to assume it's applicable in Africa. That synergy we call for. I note for want of time, but I would like to take us to. One, in Africa, we seem to have developed what I call the failed promise fatigue. What do I mean by this? I am aware that recently, concerns of what were promised to us, the failure of advanced country to redeem the pledge of $100 million to developing countries as loss and damage due to climate change events. Now, how do you get the average man on the street to trust what you say next? Secondly, Most of the development programs like the MDGs, the SDGs, have only had marginal impacts in the lives of the people. That is the reality. We cannot pay lip service to that. For this reason, Agenda 2063 does not seem to evoke so much enthusiasm in Africans. Some of them do not even know what is Agenda 2023 if you ask them. Agenda 2023 and the implementers must move beyond or away from the rooms from Addis Ababa to all of our African countries. If possible, to all those nook and crannies to know that it exists. And then the support will come overwhelmingly for them because we want to believe it's a collective responsibility if it must succeed, but not without awareness, not without synergy, not with disintegration of common purpose. Well, AU's plan to construct a modern railway network that connects capital of all African countries by 2033 is yet to materialize 10 years on. Can we ask this simple question? Or perhaps it is invincible, or it has been done somewhere else we do not know. We are all Africans. If that is the case, then we need to come clear with what we do. But I doubt. How then will that be the confidence reposed upon the organization? On the African Union's proposed African passport scheme, many Africans shall wonder how this could be possible when it is easier for an African to travel to the United Kingdom or to Malaysia than to go into Egypt, South Africa, or Tunisia. If you look at the situation, what kind of free movement protocol would or could be achieved when a UK citizen holder enters into the South Africa visa-free? And you have someone holding the green passport of Nigeria, or the Ghanaian passport, or the Cote d'Ivoire passport, and is grilled under the South African embassy, no matter the emergency, or before he secures a visa. There must be synergy. There must be synergy. There must be love. Anyway, I recollect the case of Mrs. Tanziwe Okeke, a Malawian lady married to a Nigerian immigrant. I'll tell you the story. He went back for holiday, and on his resumption, was arrested at the airport, the Lilongwe airport. What was the reason? Nigerians bring in, that is the stereotype again, they would like you to believe, Nigerians cause trouble in Malawi, they come in with fake currencies. Until the lady put up a strong legal case as against that and presented a case of infringement on our fundamental human right. And then 4 years later, that judgment was quashed and he was allowed. But I want to ask you, how many of such immigrants are privileged to be married to such people or such nationals that will get such judgment? Another $1 million question. We need synergy. We need to love each other. Well, the question arises also, and I will ask you, how practicable will an African passport be if Africans will not yet learn to be their brothers' keepers? How practicable will that passport be or currency? You can't even defend your African brother. How could countries that have not learned to integrate even their own local population by be welcoming to strangers from across their borders? But their African brothers must go through the grilling system. The African Union, we need to look into that with all sincerity of purpose and commitment. Yes, we have seen it documented that AU is committed to the realization of full potentials of women and youths. Well, women and youth. But if you look at it clearly, I would like to go, how realistic is that? When we are still stuck to the stereotypes that our children never grow into adults. But every leader was once a youth. Our leaders must come clear and must come to terms with that. Every leader was once a youth, and the youth must be given a chance. And we cannot also pay lip service to the engagement of women if this society must be engendered. But how do we do that? That is another question. $1 million question again. So you have $3 million here in the offer. But how do we go about that realistically? Because we have only Samia Suluhu Hassan from Tanzania, and we also have Sahle-Work Zewde of the Ethiopia. 2 female presidents out of the 54 African countries. Then clearly again we have just about 30% in the parliament of the entire African continent. Wow, do we start clapping? It is sad, but it's laughable because we speak the highest grammars and attend more seminars than every other. We move everywhere to flaunt our certificates without certificates. Because if we shall flaunt these certificates that is not accompanied by the certificates, they begin to question the certificates. Because if you go through this institution, London School of Economics, for instance, not the institution going through you, for the pedigree and the trust vested upon this institution, by introducing yourself, coming clear with your content, you say, hello man, I am from the London School of Economics. You say, wow, because there is a record, a legacy of outstanding performance, isn't it? Yeah. Then Africa is not to be built by anyone but you and I. And if we look up to any other person, power is not served a la carte. We heard that before. To serve to us what belongs to us. Then use the social media to run down our continent. We are quick to go out on the social media with the negativity of Africa. And that is what is making the perception. Many crimes have been committed out here that is much worse than what we see in Africa. But ours is blown everywhere in the name of freedom of speech. Can we just please change our narratives by using this freedom of speech to begin to speak about the goodness of Africa and the good things we've been able to do? Then and only then we will get rightful place, and Africa will be placed in its rightful place in committees of continents. If we don't learn to do that, they say, if you don't sing or you don't tell your own story, then it will be told by somebody else, but from his own perspective. He who wears the shoes, they say, knows where it pinches most. So if indeed we are Africans, if indeed we know much more about Africa, if indeed we love Africa, if indeed we want the prosperity of Africa, then the decision is yours and mine to rise up to the occasion, to please tweet, speak something, say something good about Africa. Much more. You are here and you know it. A lot more is worse than what is happening behind in Africa. But we hype the negativity. And that is the reason for the stigmatization. Who do you have to blame? The blame is still yours and mine. The label is still yours and mine. The discrimination must be yours and mine. Rise up if you want to change. Tell your own story, your own way, and then you will see the music change. Can we please clap for ourselves in this, because we have made it this far? Well, thank you very much. And I would like to take us. I am very optimistic that one of the expected outcomes of the London School of Economics African Summit 2023 is to accomplish, is to chart a way forward, and it is to succeed. The essence of knowledge, they say, is not only acquiring it, but what? Applying it. So we must act the talk. We must walk the talk. How ready are we to move out of this hall and begin to walk tall and act the talk? When we do that, that is 50%. A direction. So when we act the talk, we walk the talk, then we shall get the talk walking. Africa must work. Nonetheless, let me not take much of your time. I would like to thank the authorities and the faculty of FLIA Institution of Africa for their immense contribution to future Africa. I also commend all participants for their attention, for the concerted effort in the last 2 days to ensure that Africa becomes in front of the banner again. But what do we do with it? Keep spurring higher. Keep doing us proud. And I know, as parents out there, they watch, they read, they are inquisitive. They want to know. Please act to build the confidence in them that you are ready for leadership. Perform, let them watch you great speakers and all those who contributed. We want to see more of these actions so that rightful decisions will be taken. That the internet will be used in Africa to say, no, I have Nancy here, I have no this in Tanzania, I have this in Kenya, and so on. Lastly, let me leave you with this poser. When Nigeria had an issue with the United Arab Emirates, and then we wouldn't use the Emirates airline, we said, okay, Nigeria being giant of Africa, should you be asking yourself another $1 million question, why we shall not just have the biggest carrier in Africa? That question is yours and mine. That boils down to leadership. That boils down to accountability. That boils down to the issue of corruption that has eaten deep into the fabric of African existence. That is also one of the catalog's problems that leads to the failure of programs. Lack of sincerity. Then that takes me to the story that took me to Nancy's country. I wanted to use the Kenyan airline to Qatar. And then my ambassador went there and they said, no, I must spend the night in Kenya. When I was in a hurry to rush to Qatar, I said, what? I should spend the night with all my children in Kenya? They said, oh, yes. But that was their right anyway. If I had, I mean in quote, air carriers, national carriers that we'll call carriers, standing at par with the British Airways, with all the other airways, you know what I talk about. Now, I wouldn't have been told to sleep in Kenya, but I slept in Kenya. But as inquisitive as I am one Thomas Didymus. I would like to see, and I would like to turn every jab thrown at me, to use it to build bridges, use it to build paths, use it to build ladders to climb to the next level. I said, okay, I am here. I took 2 of their ministers, I looked for them straight, I said, okay, in fact, I want to explore Kenya. So that took me straight to go into the safari, to go into so many other places. I moved, and I slept 2 days in Kenya. I enjoyed it. I was able to see that this is a smaller place, yes? Like Kaduna, we say in Nigeria, yes? But they knew their onions. They were disciplined people, or they are disciplined people. No noise pollution like I will find in, some other places. They had controlled hounds. And I said, why don't they use hounds here? They said everybody knows when to do what not to do. I went to the safaris and I saw some monkeys, and we were happy because of the huge numbers we saw. And I said, don't they eat them here? Because in most African countries, they will eat them. But what was different in Africa, in Kenya, that now turned into tourist industry, that now is generating huge revenue for them, was the law and order. Implementation of law and order is one thing to make laws. It's another to be able to implement. It's another to be able to upgrade the stringent punishments again and again to serve as deterrent to anyone who is found wanting. If the laws are weak, I'll damn the consequences to eat the meat. So on this note, as I thank you very much, I leave with this poser. I want you to assume an Africa where the rail project is already failing, but let's begin to talk about new generation. We are not only the rail connecting the entire African country capital cities, that we all have befitting national carriers. We are, instead of a BA that will move you from China to London before he takes you to Accra. You shall now have either whatever airline from Africa that takes you from one African country, will enable you to stay in another African country, to give you bonding with your sisters, to create love and synergy within the countries. And then I could go on and on and on. Why won't development come in? Why won't the investment be in? Why won't our currency be stronger? Why won't we advocate for a stronger Africa through synergy and love? Thank you very much for listening.
Wow, 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 wow. That's all I have to say. The LSE Africa Summit, the now and next generation. Thank you so much, Dr. Ramatu, Tijjani, Aliyu, for your presence, for your invigorating words, for the charge that you've given the now and next generation seated in the room. The LSE Africa Summit team is excited. We are happy that the event has finally come to an end. There's been a whole lot that has gone into this program. As Chris said, students are responsible for putting this together, and they've done a phenomenal job. As His Excellency Sakaja said, we must take the path hardly followed and chart new territories for ourselves and the ones to come without bitterness or ill will. On behalf of the LSE Africa Summit team, thank you and have a good evening.